Who said that? Welcome back. As always, I got a quote for you to start this 21st episode out. In 3 words, I can sum up everything I've learned about life. It goes on.
Simple but prophetic.
Sounds like pie.
We're back.
We're back. Episode 21. It's your boy, B. Willis, or as some like to call me, Coach B.
Yeah.
CPCR, CPF. We'll explain that later.
New accomplishments.
And my co-host,
Priscilla Z. Nice to see everybody today. As you know, we are Pi Talk. Pi standing for Pursuing Internal Evolution, which is something we are all on the mission to accomplish all day, every day. That's really fun to do with some intentions. And Dee and I like to share our own experience and some hope and concepts for maybe all of you guys to try out in your daily living. But the main goal is to make really good pie rather than focusing on some of the negativity that some people focus in creation. So
yeah, sometimes we forget we started this kind of concept to replace or redirect our attention away from the tea, the negative type of gossip that we tend to focus on. Yeah. So Pi, Pursuing Internal Evolution, is also about positive internal evolution.
Right.
You know, becoming the best version of yourself by focusing on the good things in life, you know, the accolades and the things that we can uplift people instead of bringing them down with the negativity and the gross talk.
Yes.
Right?
Something that I actually personally recently just witnessed in myself is, you know, life has cycles to it, and we're human. We all get a case of the humans. And when we first started Pi Talk, like I could not even sit on TikTok and watch like the tea, like the stories and the drama. And just recently I found myself sitting on the couch and I was listening to a couple stories about the drama and what people were saying. And then I started to feel kind of poopy. And I thought, what is going on with me? This is really interesting. And then I realized, man, all of these people are doing nothing but talking really poorly about people that they don't even know. They're not promoting evolution. They're not promoting, you know, the joy of life and how you could be inspiring rather than being someone that takes someone down. And I immediately had to like reframe myself, check myself again, and then stop even engaging from a place of witnessing the tea, not just if you're making it. You know, you can sometimes be participating because the world can get tough. And for some reason, it's a lot easier for the world to highlight the negative than it is to focus in on all the positives that we've got going on. So
it's just the unfortunate fact of life.
Yeah.
Right? You could do 99% great, but that 1% of negative comments, of something, why do we focus on that? So this is the podcast. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends for focusing on the 99% and not so much the one thing we didn't do or the one thing we regret not doing or doing. Right? Let's focus on our growth. And another concept that comes up is we are not self-made. You know, I had a conversation with someone the other day about that. And, you know, she had said to me, B, I know by yourself you'll be really successful. And I was like, I disagree.
I see where you're going.
I can only be as successful as the collaborative efforts in my life.
Yeah, 100%.
Everything involves somebody else. Even if you're rich, you can't be self-made because the people that purchase whatever made you rich is a collaborative effort. Without the people, without the fans, without the consumers, Nobody is self-made. Nobody can be successful, at least financially, if there aren't other people participating and collaborating,
Right.
spending their currency, USD and energy,
Yeah.
into the thing that's making you successful. What's your big win?
Well, you were a witness to part of it. But
Mm.
yeah, I like, it's so interesting how the universe evolves and does its dance. But I got involved in a certified peer counseling training session, and I got to do the bridge training from recovery coach to peer coach. And the big win is even bigger than just that training session. It started to really ignite some things in me that I have to recognize, which is that I am pivoting careers. I have made teeth for almost 20 years of my life, and I kind of have wanted to leave that industry for almost 20 years of my life, if I'm being real. Yeah,
Okay.
there were a lot of times where I was like, why am I doing this? Or why is this what I'm doing? Because engaging with other people and being like the uplifting person or being the listening ears, essentially doing what peer counseling is all about, is something that my heart has kind of always known that I wanted to achieve within my lifetime. And it's kind of interesting how the world, sometimes you just have to accept it on life's terms. You don't get to do things exactly how you want to do them. And I experienced tons of great growth and development in the dental industry. I learned a lot. I still have that trade under my belt. I will always be able to make dentures. But I am really, really, really excited to pivot and to start kind of moving forward towards connecting with other people and kind of applying my skills and starting to exercise like that mental part. I keep calling it like, it's like mental push-ups. Like, just because you get a certification, it doesn't mean that like you're perfect at something or that you are the best or all of these things. It just is a starter block. It's a really cool foundation block to start building and building and building. And so right now for me, I have a lot of like hope, and I feel really actual genuine excitement because I get to do something that I think I've been meant to do for my whole life. And now it's finally kind of piece by piece coming into place. So I got a
Yeah.
huge brick for my big win.
It's a big bag of tools, this
Yeah.
certified peer counseling, and it's in alignment with everything that you've witnessed between us.
Yeah.
So behind the scenes, we are co-founders of Pursue Internal Evolution LLC. And so these steps are the pursuit of our own evolution
Right.
that actually comes into a collaborative so that we can create the evolution of a business doing the things
Right.
that we are both very interested in and passionate about, and the ability to just gain these skills and this bag of tools
It's
now.
the tools.
And I really like that you said that, because I agree, becoming a certified peer counselor for me was the start of
Just the
my journey.
beginning. Yeah.
It's the bag of tools, but the house hasn't even been put into a blueprint yet. I
Right.
just learned how to use a bunch of tools.
Right.
Now I have to learn how to not only write a blueprint to build this wonderful structure that we call career path.
Yeah.
The house of my career path, I started to build after getting the certification. And then I guess that leads into my big win is that was my first fully certified peer counselor trainer.
Mm-hmm.
I have graduated from the mentorship process, and I am now a Washington State Healthcare Authority certified peer counselor trainer. And I was able to be a part of
Right.
Priscilla's journey as the trainer, one of the trainers in her 3-day bridge training. So we get to share in that
I was just
big
going to
win.
say, like, it is such a big win for him. It's such a big win for me. But there are also, I mean, 25 to 30 people in that room who also experienced their big win too.
27. It was
27, yeah.
Big,
it was
big class.
totally, it was a big class. And it was fun to even witness their big win. And I think something that I learned in the training that was the most uplifting thing to me was exactly what B was just talking about. He has a set of tools. Now, he didn't whittle those tools all by himself. He gathered those tools from a lot of great people that were backing him up and supporting him. And then he got that toolbox and then he said, hey, I can make another batch. I can make another batch. Here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. And then 27 people all got a box of tools when we went into that class. And now we already left the class and we're like, dude, I got this tool. Like, let me show you this tool. Here's the tool. You can take it too. Go use it. And it's crazy to think about the ripple effect of that toolkit that everybody gets. Like, my big win isn't like a Priscilla's big win. It's like way bigger than that. It's a community win. It's that everybody can participate if they want to, and that these skills are not just about becoming like a certified peer trainer for like a career path or that sort of like USDA, like the USD like objective. It's about these skills can be practically applied in all day, every day, be it dealing with the grocery clerk, your kid, a teacher, your family members. Like, these skills not only aid those that are wanting to be certified peer counselors, but it also teaches trauma-informed representation and how to be just like a kind human being in this world. And I think that that's like, like I said, it's a community win. It's not just an us thing. It's an everybody thing.
Yeah, I agree. You can do things individually or you can do them collaboratively. You can look at a certification as a certification that leads to a job. Personally, I look at being a certified peer counselor as it's part of my identity. I am a peer.
Right.
I live my life that way. I operate through the lens of a peer, of what concepts and ideologies are taught in these different various trainings and continued education. I'm constantly taking trainings and attending seminars and in rooms, whether it's Zoom or in person, with like-minded and different-minded individuals that's constantly adding to my pursuit of internal evolution. Because the better I am as a person, the more I bring to a collaborative effort.
Right.
And that's what this is all about. And the fans that we have.
Yeah.
Big shout out. I know y'all been waiting. Here we are,
I think
episode
it's
21.
super funny. I can bring up the quote, but it kept resonating in my head, but it's from Star. And she wrote in on our last podcast. And she basically was like, okay, enough, you two, kind of thing. Like, you got it. Because it felt like she was being maybe called out and then like guided or asked to step up in her game or head into the next like level of where she's at. And that really stuck with me because it's so interesting how the universe like works. And there's this line and it's called like, you read it when you need it. And you could see the same book 100 times and it doesn't like hit like it hits the one time that you get it and you're like, oh my goodness, I needed to hear that. And it's been cool to see how you and I are just like doing our thing and we really enjoy this. It's a lot of fun. And then people hear what they need to hear when they need to hear it.
Exactly. And they're YouTube episodes, so you can go back through.
Right. It's their timing.
And look at the titles and be like, oh, I want to hear about that.
Right.
And that's when you're ready to hear about that. And then something within that episode might resonate with you way stronger in that day than maybe that's your second time seeing it, or
Absolutely.
Somebody just shared that episode with you and then you start going through the other episodes and finding jewels here and there. What I really love about what we do is just honoring the universe, right? Honoring all different levels of spirituality, of belief systems, being open-minded. Like today, something super cool happened to me, and it's been heavy on my mind today in a celebratory way, but also in a semi-sad way. Today is Christopher Knoblock's birthday. Everyone that knows me personally knows that that's probably one of the greatest friends I've ever had in my life. And today's his birthday. He passed away in 2017. And it was really interesting because I was thinking about taking some time to go sit at his grave and just, maybe take a cake up there with one of my daughters or a couple of my kids. And I was in a training today, finished a Recovery Coach Professional Facilitator training. So that's another kind of tool in my belt. I can facilitate the Recovery Coach Academy now officially today. But the very first thing that the facilitator of that training did was pair us up with somebody and said, hey, I want you to take 3 minutes and just huddle and mingle, whatever the conversation is. And so there's 22 people in this training. And obviously the facilitator doesn't know any of us personally. The people in this Zoom are in all different states, from New York all the way to Washington.
Okay.
And he paired me up first thing in the morning. This training started at 7 in the morning with a person named Christopher Michael. And Block's name is Christopher Michael Knoblock.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And I was just like...
Signs everywhere, signs.
You know, on his birthday, like, what are the odds of that if you don't have any belief in the universe and the alignment of something bigger than us, right? Christopher Michael Knoblock. And this morning, today is his birthday, I was paired
That's so cool.
with Christopher Michael. His last name's obviously different. Maybe that's not obvious, but it is different. And it was just, and we ended up kind of talking about that because I couldn't ignore that.
Yeah.
Right? So that was where we kind of spent our huddles and mingles. And actually, he had lost somebody recently, which within the past couple of weeks. And so we were able to connect on a whole nother level, you know?
Yeah.
Which leads to our topic of today's episode is let that shit go. Right? What is it that you need to let go? Whatever it is you need to let go, let it go.
Right.
We're going to talk about whether that's guilt or whether that's a career, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a transgression someone made against you and you're holding on to that. Like, why is it important? So, Priscilla, kick us off. Why is it important to let that shit
Where
go?
do I start? There's a lot of different factors and points on this issue that resonate with me because I am the youngest child of a family where I had older parents. My parents were 37 and 38 years old when they had me. I have siblings that are 17 years older than me. So I've always been a witness. I've always been able to watch either all my siblings, their friends, older groups of people navigating life and experiences, and even my parents, watching them go from the beginning of their life until the end of their life and watching the complete cycle of both my mother and father. And what I have noticed from a key factor in how to be happy here on earth is often that you must let that shit go. And it's crazy because the people who are in the most suffering, and this is my opinion, this is what I have witnessed, okay? And this is not disregarding your experience. This is not saying that you can't touch, acknowledge, feel, share, chat about whatever it is that's happened to you. But the longer that you hold on to something, the more it essentially becomes a conversation between you and you and you. It's your head, it's your heart. And these battles of why you continue to talk about what you're talking about. And is it really serving you or getting you anywhere other than sadness, guilt, shame, remorse, regret, those sorts of things? So like my sister, she's been one of my greatest guides, Betty. And you know, like the stuff that she said to me in my lifetime have often been about letting it go or forgiving it. So like my father, when he was on earth, there's some things that he did that maybe weren't the bestest, okay? But he also was a 20-year-old dad when he was doing these things, you know? So of course he's not the premium father that I ended up getting when he was 38 years old. I got a very different dad. And one thing that my sister did is like when my father passed away, she forgave him and let go of anything that happened while he was on earth. So he's been gone for almost 18 years. And she taught me that when he left. And so I've developed this relationship with this person who is in the great beyond, and I'm okay with him. I love him. I appreciate him. I find the value in everything that he left behind. I don't have ill will. I don't have sadness. I can't have conversations with a dead man about things that might have happened in my youth. The only person I can have these conversations with is me. And once I find my own resolve, it's time to let it go.
Right.
And
Okay. Let's unpack a little bit of the process.
okay.
Because this is actually a fan generated topic.
Oh, fun. I didn't know that.
Yeah, somebody had sent me a direct message in Facebook asking me, because I made a post about let that ish go, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's just what the post said. It just said let it go. And then the person's like, well, how? How do you do that? What? So the process of it. I personally believe step one to letting it go begins with accountability.
100%.
Because if you don't acknowledge the reason you can't let that shit go is you, then you'll have a very hard time letting it go. If you keep the power in the court with the other person that you won't let the thing go from, then it's going to be really hard for you to start the process of letting go. And now, when I say letting go, that to me, it's different than forgiveness.
Yeah.
It just means you're taking it out of you so that it no longer rots inside of you.
100%.
It's like Betty said, right?
Yep.
I'm not writing you in the next chapter.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not writing you out of my life.
Right.
What I mean in the term of let that shit go is stop giving it energy.
Right.
Stop allocating currency to it. Stop thinking about it.
Yes.
And stop thinking about it in a way that will cripple you or put you in quicksand.
Amen.
When you're trying to move from one thing to the next. Example, I'll use myself, which I often do, right? Sharing your story is a really big part of being a recovery coach or peer counselor or somebody in this field. And so for me, I've spent over half my life in prison, right? The thing that I couldn't let go the most was that from the first time I went in, by avoiding accountability of the actions that led me there, I put blame for my incarceration on a system, on something external, right? And because I couldn't let that go, it festered and it fostered an anger and a sense of the continuous injustice inside me, all because I wouldn't accept accountability for the role I played in ending up incarcerated, even though to an extent there were some injustices, right? But because I wouldn't accept accountability of my own role and my own ability to not let that take hold over me, then the system became my puppet master. So all of my puppet strings I gave to the system, and they allowed me to be angry. So even when I would go in and do a certain amount of time and I would get out, the things that I told myself I was doing, like, nah, I'm a rebel, I'm going to stay in the street life because fuck the system. They did this to me, so I'm going to get out and I'm going to just violate these laws because the laws is the system. The system is who I put blame on for my behavior and for my subsequent incarcerations repeatedly. It wasn't until I took accountability for being where I was at and I owned it that I was able to not blame the COs, the guards in the facility, the prosecution, the police officers that made the arrest. When I took that out of the equation, I was able to let go of that anger and that animosity. And then by letting go of that, all of that energy and currency that I had put into blaming them now became free. So now I had all this extra currency. And what did I do with it? I put that currency into what my future was going to look like. Like, what am I going to do when I get out this time?
Yeah.
Now that I'm not blaming anyone, I'm not angry about anything. I'm not looking to get revenge on this system, which is not a person. So there is no real revenge against a system. You know what I mean? And when I was able to allocate the energy towards how can I avoid ever being put in that situation again? And I thought, well, I'm 100% in control of that now. I have a release date. So one day I will get out. The things that I do moving forward are going to decide whether I come back or not. And that's just one aspect. But there's also guilt.
Mm-hmm.
How do you let go of guilt for a thing, right? There's guilt for the fact that the person I just talked about, Christopher Knoblock, passed away. I was there. There's circumstances around that for a long time I held a lot of guilt around his passing. Could I have talked him into not coming? Could I have done anything different that would have resulted in his being here today? So, I had to let go of that. And also in doing that, the process I used was honoring him as a man who made his own decisions, and considering the circumstances around that, he would have chosen that every time.
Yeah.
So by taking guilt, I'm actually dishonoring his ability to have the autonomy of, like, that's what he would have chose to do, because that's the type of person he was. Without getting into the detail of the incident, that's who Block was. That's who he is, and that's who I love. That was my homeboy, my best friend, a brother, right? So the process of letting go, I believe, starts with accountability.
Yeah.
Accepting the fact that it's up to you.
Yeah, and I think this even goes to the hard things. And so, like, I know that B's talking about, like, his actions and how his actions were what he would be accountable for. But I've got one for you that could be a tough one because you feel like maybe it's not your fault. So, and how do you find your accountability in something that you might believe you were really a victim of? Mm. And it goes back to my dad and me when I was 17 years old. So when I was 17 years old, I was a virgin and I was raped. And I dropped out of high school. I didn't graduate. I tried to go to college here and there to pick the pieces up. I ended up failing because of just mental health and running and hiding. And I kept it a secret for 2 years before I even started to talk about it. That created all sorts of hardships for myself. I would say that it probably took me a good solid 15 years to really work through all of the knit and grit. But before that 15-year stint that I gave myself, I was like, I think 20 years old, and I talked to my dad, and I wanted to tell I was probably actually 21 at the time. My dad had a heart attack. I wanted him to know why I had messed up my life. I wanted him to understand, like, it wasn't me that did that. It was because I was raped, and because I was raped, these things happened, and that's why I messed up. And so I wanted him to know this because he had the heart attack, and it made me think about his mortality, and then he ended up dying. So it was like I needed to get this out to him for whatever reason. And I told him, and there was a few conversations that came from it, but eventually he had this conversation with me and he said something. And when he said it, I was so pissed off at him. I thought he was a nasty person for saying this. And then when I did all the work later on, I heard his words from a different place and I realized what he meant. And what he said was, Priscilla, when are you going to stop letting that guy rape you? And what he meant, and continued to elaborate on, was every time I didn't go to school, I was letting that person take away my life. I was letting that person harm me again. Every time I hurt myself, my mental health, struggled in sadness and self-deprecation, I was allowing that guy to do it to me all over again. And truly, it was because I was giving up my own accountability for my own life and using that as the excuse as to why my behavior was what my behavior was. Now, of course, there's a lot of complicated strings here, but it wasn't until I took complete ownership of this topic that I got to be free. It wasn't until I forgave that person all the way and I didn't care about the outcome anymore. And I wasn't allowing that situation to assault me over and over again. I started to give myself credit. I went back, I got my high school diploma. I started to go to school again. Like, I believed that I was worth it. I cared about my body. A lot of me giving birth naturally was because I was going to own my own womanhood for once. I wasn't going to give that away to anybody. It was going to be mine. I nursed my baby. I wanted to do that. I wasn't going to let fear or shame of someone watching me pull my boob out in public essentially stop me from feeding my child. These were things that I wasn't going to re-shame myself or re-injure myself over because of all the stigmas and things that I had trained and taught myself based off of an original instance. And it's kind of a tough call because the truth is that you don't want to have accountability for that. You don't want to be like, that was my fault, because it doesn't feel like it is. But what you do with whatever's happening in your life is on you. That is your choice.
And one thing, a couple things that really stand out to me is I hear a lot of resilience.
Yeah, right? Hell yeah.
And also, and not only to you, but to any survivors out there.
100%.
That's not your fault when something like that happens.
No.
Right? And the process of healing may take 15 plus years.
Right.
Because you will never be free of that experience. But the work Priscilla is talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is about getting to a place where that experience doesn't create a narrative against your will.
You don't let it own you.
And so that may take time, and that's like, boom, that's not something I have personal experience with. I do have vicarious experience
for sure
with that.
Witness.
And I understand that can be really, really difficult to separate, accountability from the act and from how you move forward with.
It's a messy line.
With working towards letting that go, as far as how it's going to be allowed to affect what you do in your life. Again, in my opinion, that is an experience you will never be free of, but the power that it has over who you are, who you become, your worthiness, and you are worthy and you are special, and it's never your fault.
No.
When something like that happens to you.
Right. 100%. And that's why I say it's a messy thing to talk about, because we talk about like this concept of letting it go. I'm not just saying like, oh yeah, let that shit go. Like it's that easy. But I will tell you, it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is when you let go of the entrapment that certain hardships can have over you. It's about this power card or power play. Like you can be abused as a child. Now, is that going to own your existence for the rest of your life? Or are you going to let that ownership of pain and suffering go and then allow yourself to live a happy, positive life that you decide you want to live? You get to be the parent you want to be. You don't have to let the hardships and the real shit that happens in life own your narrative. Even though, like I said, it's a tough and messy line to really walk on. But I do believe like this goes down to like relationships, abusive relationships that you could be in. Of course, you want to blame your partner for all of the reasons that they might be abusive, but you staying and enduring the abuse is your participant part. And like, do you want to stay? Do you want to leave? Do you want to forgive yourself and move forward in new healthy ways? Like it's a tough thing to do. It's the dance of the ego, I think.
Yeah, because and even when you talk about like relationships like that, when you survive that type of narcissistic abusive relationship or just any type of domestically abusive relationship and you get out of it, think about all the residuals that you bring into the next relationship. Right? And that's the concept that I'm thinking of when I thought of the title of like letting that shit go, right?
Yes.
Not holding on to something because it's causing you harm.
Right.
You're not letting go for their benefit.
No.
You're letting go for yours.
Right.
You're letting go for your positive internal evolution. You're letting go so that you can create and build and pursue happiness on your own terms. Because when you hold on to a transgression that somebody else did, and they're not even around, they're not even in the picture, you aren't even having communication with this person, but you're spending valuable currency. And the currency I'm talking about is your energy, your thoughts.
Yeah.
When you're spending valuable currency and energy on hating somebody, or I'll never forgive them, but you're thinking about it, you're allowing that transaction to happen, that transgression.
And it's happening with you. The
Yeah,
conversations are happening in you.
At that point, you're doing it to yourself. And that is why I believe that letting that shit go starts with accountability.
Yeah.
Giving yourself ownership of your shit.
Right.
Managing your shit is about you. And it's almost like this entire episode, in a way, segues from our last episode, which is about by whose authority? Like, who are you? What is your name? What are you capable of? Who writes your story? Who gets to author your next chapter?
Right.
Even if you've sat in anger and guilt and hatred for another human being, whether it be family, and by all means, you might have every right to feel that they don't belong in your life.
Yeah.
But they also don't need to take up space in your heart and in your mind. You know, block and delete.
Yeah.
Let that shit go.
Right.
It's not the same as forgiveness to me. I believe forgiveness requires a little bit more acceptance of that, but letting it go in a way that just is like, you know what, there's something in my pocket and it's poking my leg. To keep it in my pocket is detrimental to me. If somebody put it in my pocket as a prank and they're not even around anymore, I'm walking around letting this thing poke me. Now, I can just take it out of my pocket and not think about the thing or the person. That doesn't mean I forgive them for putting it there.
Right.
It just means I'm no longer going to allow it to poke me.
Right.
To take my attention.
I think another thing that this all makes me think about too, and it's a topic that I know a lot of people deal with, male and female, both sides, but like parent guilt, you know? And so one thing, and this goes back to Betty, another little thing, is like she always says, and I kind of love this line, but she's always like, I wasn't trying to go for Mother of the Year, okay? Like I wasn't trying to go for that award. Like she wasn't trying to say she was perfect in any means. Like she was doing her best. That was all that she knew how to do. And then it just kept getting better as she grew and she got new skills. And that's the same thing with our parents, you know? And one thing that she taught me was that like a kid actually would love to see their parents happy, would love to see their parents healthy and productive. That's going to give a kid their best childhood. So if you as a mother do something, whatever it is, slip up. There's a lot of things that happen in life where you feel like you weren't doing your best for whatever space and time. And then you hold guilt, and then guilt turns into shame, and the guilt shame cycle starts. You could be creating more pain for yourself. And then your child now is witnessing you in the guilt, shame, pain cycle. And it's dampening the growth and development of you all as a collaborative family. So now we can touch these issues. We can apologize and we can make sure that we hear our children when they say, you know, that hurt me or these situations happen. Let's acknowledge it for sure. But let's also stop the self-deprecation of the shame and the self-hate that then perpetuates more harm for everybody around you. Like legitimately let that shit go. Like, you know, like you weren't trying to be parent of the year. You were trying to be the best parent that you knew how to be. And now this year, you're going to be an even better parent because of the things you learned in whatever hardship hit your table. And I feel like that to me, like I've made mistakes as a parent 100%, but like, when I decided to forgive myself for that, because I'm just a kid learning, like my mom, when she was 74 years old, I'm looking at her and I'm going, oh my God, you are just a baby. You were just a kid. Like she was just a girl. Like I made her out to be like she's this amazing superhero of a human being. But this was her first time on earth too. She was just a parent for the first time here too. The things that she did, she was navigating life to the best of her ability on a pursuit of internal evolution. And I watched her evolve. those are the things I'm proud of. I'm not mad at her for a lack of evolution. I'm proud of her for every little thing that she did to grow and get better. And when she forgave herself, those are the times I was probably the most proud. I was happy for her. I was excited that she felt free enough to treat herself with some respect, to give herself an attaboy for all the things that she had done for us. And then now, being in the shoes of being the mother, like I try to do that for myself all the time. I'm going to forgive myself so that I can let that shit go and move forward to be a better version of myself always, every day, you know?
And there's another concept that actually comes to mind when how do you let that shit go in the face of adversity from a peer or partner?
Yeah.
Meaning, when you have a trifecta or a triangle, a friendship, or you and your partner gets into it with someone and you're both close to that person,
Yep.
you're willing to let the shit go, but your partner isn't. Like, so
Right.
how do you navigate that? Because you want that peace, but the other person, it might be you and your best friend, and your two of your best friends get into it. You're willing to let it go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But one of the two friends aren't. And then it's like, how do you stand on that? What is the process that would make that easier? Because you still remembering like who you are and the authority of you. You can't allow someone else to dictate your peace.
Right.
Protecting your peace at all times is one of our greatest mantras here. When you talk about the pursue internal evolution philosophy, right? Protect your own peace. And so in my personal life, I've had situations like that.
For sure.
And it sometimes is harder to let something go that somebody else you're close with won't let go than it is for the original conflict.
Right.
Sometimes it's harder because now you're being judged for not holding on to it because they want to hold on to
Right.
it. You're being judged by somebody you're close to for not wanting to hold on to some animosity or stand where they stand in something. And then it becomes that. And so again, it boils down to the same first step.
Right.
Accountability.
And I was just going to say, and this is like my brain's going boop, 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 boop right now, because it's not just accountability, but accountability is for yourself. I have accountability for me, my actions, my beliefs, what I'm doing. I do not have accountability for other people's feelings and experiences. I do not have control, which is the word that comes to mind. I have no control over other people. So like in this trifecta conversation, you can still have accountability for your own feelings. You can let something go on your end. But the truth is you have no control over like your partner or your friend and what they believe about the situation. And when you are at peace with that and you just still sit in your own forgiveness, regardless of what the other elements are saying, you get freedom again. Like, yeah. It's freedom from knowing that those things are kind of none of your business. And as much as that can be tough sometimes, I think it's the key to feeling successful. I know right now, like I have a couple situations, this family dynamic stuff, and I'm not trying to get sued, so I'm not going to say too much. But like, there's a lot of people in my life that like for me, have to let go. Mm-hmm. I have to. It is the only way that I know I can protect my own peace and I can be the best self that I believe I am. Well, sometimes other people are trying to push a narrative that they want for themselves about who I am.
And so I love this, and I love where you're going with this because it allows me to illustrate my point, which is with that,
yeah,
you have a partner.
Yep.
If your partner doesn't feel the same about said person, you have to let go. That is the conflict that I'm talking about, because in a lot of relationships, you being this person who wants to let go of this person, your partner saying like, I don't feel that way. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm good with that person. That creates conflict. Mm-hmm. Now you're judging them because you're perpetuating or projecting your feelings of, well, I have to let them go. Right. So then sometimes you get put in that what's an ultimatum,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, if you're still going to be friends with that person, then we can't move
blah,
forward,
blah, blah.
blah, blah, blah. And it's like people really need to accept their individual power and ownership and honor their own autonomy without projecting that on somebody else. Like, we all have our lanes, we all have our private realities, we all have our standards, our levels of forgetting, of forgiveness. We have our different tolerance levels of what's acceptable and what's like hard stop, right? Hard stop to our friendship if you do A, B, or C. But your partner, that A, B, or C, might not be a hard stop.
Right.
And they might enjoy that relationship with that other person. So thinking about the process of letting that go, there's so many layers and levels and onion peelings till you get to the center of it all.
Yeah.
Just think of it as starting with, are you okay feeling the way you feel about whatever it is you can't let go? Does it bring you joy to hold on to that animosity, that anger, that hurt? Does it bring you peace? Does it bring you anything of quality value to your life to not let it go? And then adversely ask yourself those same questions when it comes to letting it go. Would you feel better if you could let it go? Will it bring peace to you to not have to hold on to this? Is it going to add quality to your life? Is it going to allow you space to grow?
Right.
To evolve?
Right. I think one thing that I personally do as like a visual representation of all of this is like, so there's it's the poem, row, row, row your boat gently downstream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Okay. Right.
That part.
Right. So when you're rowing and you try to go against the stream or the current of like transition, change, like maybe a person feeling one way, you feeling a different, and you're going with those rowboat arms and you're trying to hit hard, trying to go against that stream. It's exhausting. You're not getting anywhere. It doesn't feel good. And it's kind of defeating in a way. And so like you could, of course, like you could try to pivot around and you can go try to move down the stream. And like the song says, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Like you want to go down that stream as merrily as you can, no matter what the path is, even if it means breaking away from other people, even if it means that river's going to split away from people that you got to let go of, like that's okay. But if you feel like you're at a conflict and you can't keep up with going against the stream, or you don't know how to turn back around and head down it, toss your hands up, man. Drop the oars.
Reassess, reevaluate, and start asking yourself questions. Get curious with yourself, because another mantra of ours, another big piece of our philosophy is curiosity fosters connection. The connection that we promote the most is the connection with self. If you have a divine connection with self, your collaborative efforts and your collaborative energy is that much more valuable in moving towards something that you want to do and want to enjoy when it comes to the quality of your life and the quality of your relationships in this life, which again, perpetuate the collaborative efforts that make a person successful in life, or happy, if you will.
And like I think life will grab you, and if you're putting the currency out there that you want to put out there, literally current, like current in the river, currency, like the universe will match your current, they'll match your currency, and it'll get you down the perfect path for you. So I think like a lot of this is like, try not to resist change. Try not to resist letting things go that no longer serve you. I like what B's saying, evaluate, really think about it, get curious. If you do want to mend the fence, you can mend it if you'd like. You don't have to if you don't want to. Like you really got to sit with yourself and decide, what kind of currency and energy am I willing to put in right now? And is it for me and my greater purpose, so that, I can grow, And if you don't grow, you got to go. That's kind of where I'm at.
Ask yourself, when it comes to letting it go, who is holding it on to, or who is holding on to it serving? Is it somebody else? Is it really you? Is it really your desire to hold on to this anger or animosity or negative energy about the particular situation? Or is it maybe what society thinks you should do or what somebody else believes you should be doing? Like, oh, that person did that. You shouldn't be friends with that person.
Right.
Fuck them. Right? Is that really how you feel? So when we talk about getting curious, get curious and get honest. Mm-hmm. So again, I brought up a concept when it comes to like anger management, and that's the AC, right? AC is what we turn on to cool things down. Mm-hmm. When we experience anger, our bodies literally heat up.
Hot.
Right? We get hot.
Right.
So AC was the concept that I brought up for turning on the AC means authentic curiosity. Mm-hmm. Authentic also means honest.
Yeah.
Getting honest with yourself by asking honest, open-ended questions to yourself about how you're feeling, about the thing that you can't let go or can't seem to let go.
Right.
Because I promise you, if you decide, you can let that shit go.
You will. Because you are what you agreed to. So
you will if you want to.
You will if you want to. And honestly, you guys, like, I hope that this episode didn't seem like super black and white, you know, in any way. Like, there's a lot of open-ended conversation that can happen with like letting that shit go. And none of this is meant to harm or to tell you what you have to do with your story. You can hold on to anything that you want to hold on to.
It's just tools. I got a bag of tools.
But overall, letting that shit go,
it's just a tool.
Seems like a really good tool to have. So
use it at your will. Don't use it. Put it in your toolbox. Toss it. Take it to the pawn shop.
Get curious.
Whatever you do with these tools is up to you. We give them freely.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just tools. I am not an expert. I am not a doctor.
No.
I'm only an expert on my own experience.
Yeah.
I am only a master of me.
Yeah. Also, if you guys have any if you guys have peer connection concepts that you'd like to bring up, or if anybody you want to talk about a specific issue that you would like, you know, some more tools to help let go, you can DM B and I at any point in time, and like we both can sit and we could do walk and talk or something like that, to where we touch base on the specific topics that you yourself have that you want to chat about. And it's not about doing this all alone and like bucking up Buttercup and making sure you just let that shit go. There is a process of connection that can also offer some closure or some other perspectives to things that might be hard hitting in your life. So make sure that if you do need to reach out, you do so. We can also talk about these topics on the show if this is something that we need to go further into. Just
drop it in the Facebook page or the community group. There's so many different ways to reach out, get feedback. You know, recovery is about repairing. Mm-hmm. It's all collaborative, right? Everything we do is about a collaborative effort, even though at the end of the day, when it boils down to it, the decision is yours to choose. Whether you recover, whether you let that shit go, whether you sit and stew in it, it's your choice. But it doesn't mean you can't have a collaborative effort around the discussion. What's going to help you get there? What's going to help you make that informed decision? And it's about community, collaboration, and curiosity.
Right. You're the captain of the ship, but at the same time, it's nice to have some people on deck to help out. So
love it.
Totally. We're here for you guys. Take care.
That ends the topic portion.
Who said that?
Well, the quote of the day was brought to you by Robert Frost. Robert Lee Frost, who was born on March 26th, which could possibly be my birthday if you know my birth story, 1874, and he died on January 29th, 1963, was an American poet. His work was initially published in England before it was published in the United States. Known for his realistic depictions of rural life and his command of American colonial speech, Frost frequently wrote about settings from the rural life in New England in the early 20th century, using them to examine complex social and philosophical themes. Frequently honored during his lifetime, Frost is the only poet to receive 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. He became one of America's rare public literary figures, almost as an artistic institution. So some other quotes that he has that I thought were really interesting was, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Home is the place where, when you go there, they have to take you in. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought, and the thought has found words. So, pretty cool.
All right.
Pretty cool guy.
Mr. Frost?
Mr. Frost, yes.
I love it. I love it. Well, that takes us into our shout out for some philanthropy. We're going to stick it to local Thurston County, Olympia, where we shoot the Pie Talk episodes from. And I'm going to give that shout out to 100 Women Who Care.
Right. So now 100 Women Who Care sounds like a really spectacular organization that when B told me about, I thought must have been internationally renowned because of how awesome it sounds. And it happens to be here in Olympia. It is super, super local. So it's 100wwcoo.org, which is 100 Women Who Care of Olympia. They have 4 meetings a year. And in these 4 meetings a year, there is an opportunity for local nonprofits to participate, to showcase their own work and need, and to possibly win a donation from this nonprofit to then help them succeed in their own endeavors. There have been many people that have already won this prize, which is really cool. Lots of local people that I personally even know. So it's in action right now. And the concept is basically that the people that participate are donating $100. So if there's 100 women at $100 a pop, we've got a nice pool of help and safety for those people who are trying to make change here locally.
Yeah, and so they give $10,000 to the selected local nonprofit that wins out at these meetings, and it's really great. I've actually personally been vicariously a part of one because I sit on the Strophy board, which was actually the winner of one of these just last year. And then I am the founder of the nonprofit, Pursue It If You Want It, as you know. And Star, again, shout out to Star, presented to them for our nonprofit. However, we were runners up to a great nonprofit that ended up winning that time. But just wanted to really give a shout out to the 100 Women Who Care of Olympia. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for what you continue to do. And the fact that you've chosen this mission really, really is significant in our community, helping out a lot of newer and existing nonprofits, with continuing in their missions.
Yeah. As well. I was like, the one thing too that I want to really acknowledge, and this is something that B focuses on in terms of Pursue It As You Want, if you want it, in his own nonprofit world, but this concept of grassroots growth and staying within our community. I sat with a member of Pure Olympia recently, and he told me something that it's been sticking in my head since I sat there. And he said, you want to get close to the community within your community. So community sometimes can be a big thing. It can be looked at as like our general Tri-City area, but you can get really close to people that are your neighbors and your friends, and you can help right there in lifetime action. And that's kind of what this really seems like. It's like we could go big and we could try to get all these different donors from all these different situations, but these women are deciding to take the power back in their own hand and go for it right here and right now. And they're making a huge impact. They've donated over $100,000 since 2019, which just shows you that 100 women sure can make a lot happen, just by getting together. And we all have that same power. So I encourage you to check them out and get involved.
Yeah. So let's go right into our 4 agreement cards. Ooh, I have in front of me 2 of the 4 agreements. The first one I will read is, don't take anything personally. Embrace your freedom. You gain a huge amount of freedom when you take nothing personally. No spell can affect you, regardless of how strong it may be. And if you live without fear, if you love, you will be happy with your life.
Yeah, amen. I have don't make assumptions. I don't know if you know this, but assumptions is don't make, they only make an ass out of you and me. If you spell it, assume. So we want to
I have heard that a time or two.
It's a great one. Communicate with clarity. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. If all humans would communicate with impeccability of the word, all of our relationships would change. There would be no wars, no violence, no misunderstandings.
Why don't you go ahead? I'm going to save this one for last.
I have a really beautiful card, and it says, transform your life, because you get to do that. Don't take anything personally. When you refuse to take things personally, you avoid many upsets in your life. Your feelings of anger, jealousy, and even your sadness will simply disappear if you don't take things personally and maybe let that shit go.
Let that shit go. And while you're practicing letting that shit go, remember to always do your best.
Yeah.
Express your own divinity. You don't need the acceptance of others. You don't need knowledge or great philosophical concepts. You have the right to be you. And you express your own divinity by being alive and by loving yourself and others.
I love that.
I do. Those are great.
Yeah. I was like, the 4 agreements is a really huge thing. And I don't know if any of you guys need a reminder, but like that book, it's a really quick read. And sometimes it's a nice little life refresher to just pick up the 4 agreements and go for it. So make sure that you guys indulge in that if it's something that interests you.
Speaking of books, Keep Effin' Going, written by Joshua Smith.
Hey, I know those guys, and Jordan Davis.
Episode 21 means we are on day 21 as our original agreement with these 2 individuals. The nonprofit Our House Gives is kind of what produced this beautiful book of aspirations, motivations, inspirations. And so we get to day 21, and the book reads as follows. Leadership is about taking responsibility for your actions and being accountable to those you serve. I did not read this before we started this episode.
I love this stuff.
This is the universe doing what the universe does. Owning up to your mistakes and making things right is a crucial aspect of restorative leadership. What mistakes have you made? And how can you take accountability for them? I'm telling you.
Oh, that is what universe.
It is. The message is in the message is, man, it's amazing how these things come to fruition without any scripts.
Divinity. It's a beautiful thing.
If you could see the text messages between us when it comes to recording these episodes, there is nothing other than usually a title and some back and forth on, hey, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Hey, do you have a quote for the day? I don't know. We'll think of one when we get there. Like, this is so authentic, and it's so fun to be a part of that it's genuinely self-care.
Yeah.
I think with that, we're going to end our episode because we are just above or around the hour mark. Make sure you like, subscribe.
Take it easy, everybody.
Follow. Share, spread the wealth of positivity everywhere you go. And most importantly, let that shit go, man.
Yeah, let that shit go. Thanks, everybody. Take care.